Yes, that's right. It's Joe here for Joyrider TV, and this week I've been fortunate enough to be coaching Tarek on the Hobie 16.
Hi everybody. Today is going to be the first time I go out on my own. I'm a little bit nervous, but just want to make it clear, if anything goes wrong, I completely absolve Joe, but I want to make it very clear, this is Hussein Gohar's fault.
Okay, so you could drop the rudders down before you get on if you want, just so we're sort of ploughing a little bit. Okay, so you can jump on just there. Okay, you all set?
Yep.
You look pretty set. Bon voyage.
Thank you. Famous last words.
Okay, so although you can't see it from here, there were some shallow spots on the way out for Tarek, which is why he's going out with his rudders up. The other major hazard is that pier on the right hand side.
I'm just gonna keep going slowly. Okay. Wind indicators look good. Good angle. Making decent speed. Okay. And try and drop the rudder.
Yeah, so this is the perfect setup that Tarek's got here with the rudders halfway up. You can see he's got the main sheet very slack because rudders halfway up, if you've got load in the main sheet, that is going to try to pull the boat up into the wind. I think at this stage he also doesn't have any downhaul on, so the mainsail is pretty slack at this point. And we had spoken about it before setting off. So, a stumbling point that we'd been having was getting the leeward rudder down. So what we said we'd do is to tack the boat first and then get the rudder down once tacked.
Nice and easy, no need to steer away from that reef. Okay, I'm doing some pretty decent speeds. Okay, once I get around the pier, okay, right. Just gonna get past these buoys a little bit. Give myself plenty of room to do my first solo tack. No need to.
Okay, so here we go. We're going for our first tack.
Since I'm going to do a tack, bring the traveler in. Okay, now. Speed going.
Okay, we can see that Tarek's got the jib pretty slack there. Shouldn't be an issue, but just worth noting. Main sheet perhaps a little bit oversheeted for sailing along, so ideally just bringing the main sheet in just before the tack.
I'm not really getting much speed here.
Yeah, a bit oversheeted, Tarek. And that oversheeting with, especially with,
Stalling.
You can see the windward rudder isn't completely down there as well. Yeah, so the main sheet being in so tight has actually brought Tarek right up into the wind, which has actually put him into the tack. So if he reverses the rudders here, then we should get round nicely anyway.
Okay, well, it just tacked on its own. Obviously that was a bit of a mistake, but I'll come up here. Let's see. Let's try.
Okay, so we just want to get the boat moving a little bit better before sheeting in. This is quite a common sticking point on the exit of the tack, to bring the main sheet in too soon. You need grip with the rudders before bringing the main sheet in.
Very different when you're on your own.
Okay, so I'm here with Hussein, who's in team uniform. And Hussein, how do you feel that Tarek is going to go out there?
I think he's going to do well. I think that after 4 days of training with you, I think he's got the hang of it, and I think he's going to do it.
Yeah, the leeward rudder is still not quite down,
Upwind
so
course, I think.
checking that the rudders are down correctly is really going to make a big difference. Tarek's going to be like 5 knots there. He's going to be experiencing some weather helm.
I'm gonna go for attack.
All right, nice choice.
So we come into the wind. We put this down. I'm gonna push hard. Come to this side.
Right, you can see just there the rudders have adjusted, like corrected the wrong way, which is bringing him back up into the wind.
Okay. Okay. Doing a bit of a balls up of it right now, but
Okay, so the reason that tack didn't go so well was all about rudder management. You could see when Tarek went into the tack, he abandoned the steering at the time when he went across the boat, which allowed the rudders to steer the wrong way. Still a successful outcome on the tack because we're going along quite nicely again now, but something that we could tidy up. So, rudder management. Make sure you don't let go of the stick until you're actually passing it around the back. In the really light wind also, we could stay on the original windward side for longer. So staying there until the boat is almost all the way through the wind and moving again, and then moving across the
look at
boat.
that. She's moaning.
This is great speed though. We're up to
Don't want it to
7
be
knots
moaning
now.
on the first.
Very nice.
That's enough for now. Right. Okay. I'm going to go for another tack. So I'm going to come into the wind a little bit. Drop my stick.
Great technique.
And I'm going to push hard.
Yeah, this is good so far. Main sheet eased a bit early. But very good. Much better rudder management this time.
Okay. That's my tack.
Yeah, lovely.
Right.
That was a great tack,
straight.
Tarek. Well done. And the only point I could pull out of that one was the main sheet was eased a little bit too soon. Just a second. What we should be doing is watching the jib, and then the moment when the jib backs, that's the time to let the main sheet off. But very nice. Getting back up to speed pretty nicely there. I don't think we're pointing particularly high at the moment, but that's okay.
Clearly that wasn't the smoothest thing you've ever seen in your life, but given that was my first, I'm going to come into the wind a little bit. I'm going to do another tack. I don't like the shallow there. Into the wind a bit. And in. Okay, into attack.
Nice. Very good. Pulling the mainsail out to really allow the boat to bear away on the new side. This is great technique. He's abandoned the stick for a little bit too long, but because he pulled the main sheet out, using a bit of that weather veining effect of pulling the main sheet out, it meant that the rudders naturally were steering in the right direction. So great tack there, Tarek. Good job. Okay, so Tarek's now in the middle of the boat, as we can see. Put the downhaul on a bit more. That would have actually been a good time to demonstrate the hove to position. Stop the boat.
Let that out.
All right, let's see how we get on
Back in it.
recovering
Okay,
from
now I'm stuck
stalled.
back in. Right. Bring it back into the wind a little bit.
So there we are, rudders reversed. Okay, what we could do to accelerate this is a bit more weather veining.
Okay.
So the thing to do, let the main sheet off completely, push the boom out, and then what that's going to do is help to push the boat off the wind on the tack that we're
Okay.
on.
There we go. There we go. Got it going.
Nice job.
I'm actually quite happy with that. I mean, I stalled, went backwards, got the boat moving again. Right.
Yeah, agreed. That is a really great thing to be able to do and to know that you can do that. Because one of the main sticking points on a catamaran like this is stalling. So knowing that you can recover, that is really good.
Anything spectacular? Right. Oh, okay, into the wind, into the wind, into the wind. Yeah, let the sail out into the wind. That was a gust of wind there. Okay. Just let this thing out a little bit. Just leave it nice and steady. Okay, now I'm going to go for another tack.
Okay, so it was getting away from him a little bit there. Like, I think Tarek was feeling a little bit intimidated by the speed of the boat. And the reason for that is because we're not sailing close enough to the wind here. If we brought the jib in a bit tighter, sailed up so that that windward telltale on the jib was lifting. Okay, yeah, not really getting into the wind there.
Damn it. No. Back to the front of the boat. That didn't work. Okay. That wasn't very smooth.
Yeah, there was no main sheet on going into the
That's
tack,
how to do it.
which
Thanks.
meant that the boat wouldn't turn close enough into the wind.
Some notes on that.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, not enough main sheet in, which meant we weren't pointing close enough to the wind, which meant by the time we're head to wind, the boat was
Done
stopped.
something wrong with the jib on that one. Okay.
It is quite common to be reluctant to bring the main sheet in enough once the wind starts building a bit.
Jibe. Push.
All right.
Do it. Ah. There you go.
Okay, yeah, reversing it round. So why wouldn't it go through there? I think not enough main sheet eased when head to wind, not close enough to the wind before the tack. That would have also contributed. Okay. Just get the boat moving. That's it. Main sheet's nice and loose there. That's going to really help to get her moving.
Got it round.
Now, what point of sail are we on here? This looks like a beam reach to me, but the Traveller is still in the middle. So what we want to do there is just really establish what point of sail we're on, where are we going, and set the sails accordingly. So like we can see on the map of where we've been, the course that we were on before we tacked, so that would have been head close hauled. So we should be looking more at 90 degrees coming out of the tack there. So we are just heading up a little bit now,
Right now on my own.
but still more of a beam reach.
Course. Right. Here comes the fun part. Now I'm going to let the sail out. I'm going to do a jibe.
Okay, you could really see the back of the boat lifting up out of the water there a bit. That would be because that jibe was initiated when we were on a kind of beam reach, Traveller in the centre. That was good though, good result, nice and smooth. No big slam of the mainsail coming across.
Traveller out.
Again, on the map of where, oh crikey Tarek, boom to the head. Yeah, we need to keep an eye on those wind indicators. Good job you're wearing the helmet. All right, watch out. crikey. Okay, so I think what we really need to do here, now that we've changed course, is keep an eye
Clearly,
on the wind indicators.
keeping your head down low and wearing a helmet for a jibe is really important. Okay, let's get Davies at 90 degrees. There he is.
Okay, Davis is the name of the wind indicator. That just happens to be the brand of the arrow that they have on this boat.
I want to come down on a downwind course now.
Possibly a bit too far downwind there. We can see the speed. Yeah, accidental jibe. So really need to keep much more of an eye on those wind indicators at the front on the downwind.
I'm going to go upwind a little bit.
Okay, I think this course change might come because Tarek is getting into
gonna
some
go for a
pretty
tack.
shallow water here.
In a bit. A little bit.
Jibs in, nice. All looking good so far. I don't think we're particularly close to the wind though at this point.
Some shallow corals here and some shallow water there. I'm between two sets of freaking corals. Okay, look ahead of you.
Oh yeah, we can see in the top view just some breaking waves ahead, which is really, really shallow water.
There is some shallow sand. I'm going to go around this coral. Yeah, okay. My rear rudder hit the sand. Let me just get through this area.
Yeah, it's nothing quite as off-putting as losing a rudder once you've hit the bottom. Yeah, and you can see the breaking waves there. That means that it is really shallow water.
There we go. Just gonna sail back into the open water over there where I can make a jibe.
Okay, if Tarek actually means he does want to make a jibe, that would be the wrong choice because that will take him in towards the beach, which will be even shallower. Much better just to go for a static 3-point turn pretty much where he is, and then that would have put him on the right tack to start heading back towards the starting point.
For a little bit. Okay. Now I just want to go home, so you know what?
Okay, so we have stalled there. It was just the boat was just allowed to drift up into the wind. Again, we could get the boat moving by using the weather vaning technique, pushing the boom out, or the other method would be to crank the main in, which would pull the boat head to wind, and then weather vane it round onto the other tack. We going for the rudder there? Yeah. Okay. Good use of that stalled position to get the rudder down. And also by going down to that side, it means the boat is going to start moving again. Now, while Tarek's been sheeting in, he did allow the rudders to head the boat up into the wind. So we need some kind of definitive action here to get the boat moving. So rudders are just gently pointing away, which is kind of like hove to position, but it's not like, right, we're going to be hove to now to stop the boat. Tarek is desperately trying to get the boat moving, but it's not happening because the rudders are pointing slightly away consistently. Don't worry about the jib too much. Although, yes, backing the jib like that is going to help, but look at the rudders still pointing up into the wind. If we look at what the rudders are doing, we can really see why this is remaining stalled. Every time the boat moves forwards, it heads up into the wind a little bit more. All right, that's good. Just enough. All right, don't worry about the jib now. Let the jib go. All right, that's good. Okay, the culprit there quite clearly was there was no main sheet on when Tarek went to go into that tack, which meant no chance for the boat to get to head to wind.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think there's a lot to learn here of how not to do this.
Yeah, so it's just putting it all together. And now that initially, when everything was going well, it was kind of like a low stress environment. Now that things have started not to go quite so well, the stress level's a bit higher, which means the certain nuts and bolts of the maneuver is being forgotten. So we just need to remember, main sheet has to be cranked to get it to go into the wind, especially if we're not moving. Okay, so from where Tarek set off from, it looks like he's unable to tack. I'm sure from on board the boat we can see quite clearly what's going on. So I'm just going for a little stroll down the beach to assist. Of course, the closer I get to him, the more likely it is that he's going to succeed in a tack and head back out to sea. Okay, so all that we need to do, ignore the jib, we're moving forwards, is to crank the main in, push the rudders across, and that bad boy will just slip through into a tack. All right, Traveller's going out. It looks like we're going for the other approach, but we're hardly moving. But being on that leeward quarter, the back section of the boat, it's really good for getting the boat moving again. But is the water deep enough to actually go for a jibe? So, okay, it looks like we're going for a tack. But once again, not enough main sheeting going into the wind. So the boat isn't even getting to head to wind because the main sheet wasn't in enough. Yeah, water's pretty shallow. Sometimes the best...
Taking the boat into shallows where I can control it, and then I can walk it back to shore.
I would say that is a very good strategy.
I gotta figure out, what am I doing wrong here?
Okay, Tarek says that's a fail, but I think that is a success. He went out on his own for the first time ever. Reasonable amount of moderate wind, 12 to 14 knots. Did some nice tacks, a few good jibes. Granted, there was some mistakes, and made it back to the beach. I'd say that was a big success. Okay, so we've rejoined the boat.
Happy I got the boat back to shore, but clearly there's a lot to learn still. Very different matter when you're on the boat with somebody telling you what to do when you go out on your own. Also for me, I think one of the big issues was the responsibility of controlling the jib sheet as well as the main seat, the main sail and the rudder. So that added a layer of complexity, and I think I got confused. We'll look at the... I'm really happy we did the video, to be honest with you, because then Joe can have a good look at exactly what went wrong, because my description of it may be inaccurate, but I think it was my management of the jib sheet. So I hope this video is useful for everybody, especially the beginners amongst you, because I think I did all the mistakes that a beginner does.
Great job, Tarek. Well done. Okay, see you soon with some more on Joyrider TV.